All the Upanishads are likened to a cow. The cowherd boy is Krishna. The calf is Arjuna. People of purified intellect are the drinkers of the milk, and the milk itself is the supreme nectar called the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 4, verse 20. Before we go to the verse, we recap a bit from the last verse, which is 19. The wise call that person learned whose actions are all devoid of desire and their thoughts, and whose actions have been burnt away by the fire of wisdom. Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjita jnanagni dagda karma nam tamahu panditam buddha. So the wise call him learned. Who are the wise? And who is the learned? And who is the pandit? And one whose actions are free from desires and the very roots of desires. It's called sankalpa. Sankalpa is the initial thought. I would like this. And that thought impels the mind towards the object or the objective. In the other sections of the Mahabharata, they say, Kama janami te moolam sankalpat kila jayate. The very idea of the mind being impelled outwards depends on the underlying thought. So this half verse speaks about, I am going to uproot that underlying thought, and so I'm going to destroy you, O desire. And then what happens? The actions have been burned by the fire of wisdom. The very fact of uprooting that underlying thought itself is wisdom. And that wisdom destroys all the actions. Now, when we say, oh, what will remain then? What remains? Yes, wisdom. And that's the reason why in Vedanta is saying it is jnana, it is wisdom itself that is the key to freedom. Once you have that key, you can open the door. What is the door? The door is called karma. And that has to be opened. So this is, there's a say, the learned, the wise call him learned. Learned in the sense, the Pandita. Who is a Pandita? One who has knowledge of the reality is called a Pandit. What reality? We are seeing the reality. Well, really. This morning, we were having a nice, kind of hilarious conversation. There are a couple of people around on the table. They were saying when they were young, they were all blonde. And then I said, what happened to all that blonde? So what was real? Blonde. Oh, then what happened to that? Things keep on changing. And if reality keeps on changing, it wasn't real in the first place. Because I don't want to attain a reality which is constantly modifying itself, constantly mutating. That won't be a very nice place to be in. And that's why Vedanta says whatever is under the influence of time and space undergoes modifications according to the laws of the universe, according to the laws of the mental universe, and so that can be the reality. So what we perceive, what we think, what we imagine, what we dream, what we desire, cannot be the reality because it is under the laws of change. And this world that we see is constantly changing. People have been saying that this whole universe is expanding. Good for the universe. Let it expand. So, yeah, but then what? This universe is vast. Good for the universe, it's vast. Let it keep on expanding, let it be vast, let it be even more vaster. It cannot be the reality. So, when we dream, we'll go to heaven. And there, very strangely, everybody thinks we will meet our parents and our brothers and sisters and family. Nobody says we'll meet our wives there, our husbands there. Because they know they already had enough of that wife or husband here. Mother and father kind of good enough. But nowadays children will say, no, my mother and father are abusive. I don't want to meet them there. So what are you left with? You want heaven? And suppose you are alone in the heaven, then you like to be in heaven. What are you going to do in heaven then? You're alone. You want company. And these are all our silly desires that we have been harboring in our minds and hearts, and we wish to have these as real. How can these be real? They are there, but they are constantly under the laws of change. In fact, Swami Vivekananda says all these higher worlds are dismissed as lower to this particular world. In Vedanta, this world that we live in is the highest world. It's the best world, where you can realize that Brahman, that reality here. So that's the best. Now you know why we are kind of buffeted by joys and sorrows and hate and love, and it's kind of, we are being churned and churned. It's like something that is trying to tell us that what you're holding on to is not real. You've got to hold on to that reality. But what is that reality? These are some of the verses that we will see. They speak of that reality in one breath, and in that same breath, they are speaking of the practical, you can say, approaches to that reality. So some of these verses, succeeding verses, are tremendous in their scope. Later on, they will come and will say that this whole universe is one sacrifice, and whatever you do is a kind of a sacrifice. If you can understand your life as a sacrifice, you have understood reality. The moment you have been grasping and pulling out things, you are still in the realm of ignorance. The moment you start giving, you have taken a long stride towards freedom. And this is the process. From here, the Bhagavad Gita will lead us on to higher and higher and higher realms of karma and freedom from karma through knowledge. The 20th verse is, having given up attachment to the results of action, one who is ever contented, dependent on nothing, that one really does not do anything even though engaged in action. Here, these are the sublime teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, unparalleled. So the Sanskrit is Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmanya pravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. So that person, Tyaktva, having given up, what? Karma phala sangam. You can say asangam, you can say attachment to the results of action. Once a person, it's not telling you stop working. It's telling you keep on working. But at the same time, don't keep your eye on the results of what you're doing, on action. Why? Because that is the bondage, not the action per se. The action itself, whatever you do, you think and talk, will either lead you to freedom or to bondage. When you have an eye towards the results of action, of what you do, what you think, so that comes to you. Well, you wanted it. We are sometimes, there's a story of a very old lady, and she's constantly grumbling, saying, since I was very little, I have been working and working and working. And she used to blame God for all her misery. When are you coming? When are you going to let me away from this bondage? So she's constantly praying and she's working. So her work was, she used to go to the forest, chop some wood, bring those chopped pieces of wood to the marketplace, sell them for some money, and on that she spent her whole life, you can say, selling wood and living on whatever little money she could earn. So constant, and every day she has to go to that forest, do that hard work, and come back and sell. So one day, the Lord decides to hear her prayers. And the Lord comes. He comes, now come along with me. You've had enough, isn't it? What? Had enough? What? So you asked for a kind of a release from this bondage. Come along with me now. You had enough of this. Oh no. You see, I'm growing old and the load of wood is getting heavier and heavier. So why don't you carry this for me? Now, we even pray to the Lord for release. Actually, release, you take care of my burdens a little, and I'll be a little happier with less burdens. We don't really want freedom. So when that old lady was saying, when I was told, come, let's go. No. We want to be in bondage. Somewhere deep down. Why is that? That is because of we have been comfortable with our own reality. And we don't want this comfortable world to be broken. What will I do? So here he's saying, having given up all attachment to the results of action. Is it? One who is ever contented, depending on nothing. See what happens? Work is a kind of a dependence. What do I do whole day? Yeah, I depend on work. So my ego, my sense of identity depends on the work, and the work depends on the results. So here I have forged my own links in the chain. You see, when we get mature, we grow in wisdom. We will find our problems small, and we have grown in wisdom. So if the person is still immature, the problems are huge, and the person is small. The person is overwhelmed with hundreds and hundreds of problems and difficulties. It is knowledge that makes you expand and huge and big. Everything else becomes small, miniature. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, solve this. Oh, that's a problem. As a result, what happens is that person simply walks through all difficulties as kind of takes them apart. They are quite small in compared to that person's wisdom. And now slowly that person can solve other people's problems also. Why? Because that person has grown so vast. That person's support is in knowledge. And as that person has been supporting himself or herself on knowledge, that dependence on knowledge grows. And this knowledge is what? The Pandita, knowledge of the reality. We had seen in the previous 18th verse, he who sees action in inaction. The consciousness, the self, is actionless. And this world of nature, world, everything in it is nothing but action, movement. So there are two entities, the actionlessness and the action. So one who sees that consciousness as in beyond action, actionless, in the midst of all actions, that person is working, constantly working, but that person is aware of one's own consciousness. That person is understood in action, in action. Right now, what has happened is our consciousness is so enmeshed with action. And how does it enmesh? I am the doer. This is my work. And this will be the results of my work. And there I get caught. So once a person can get detached from this, Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a coconut. When you take a dried coconut and you shake it, you will hear the kernel inside rattling, kind of sound. It has separated itself from the shell. That's important. So it takes a while. You got to keep it in the sun or kind of some. It's a natural process. The flesh detaches itself from the shell and becomes separate. So this actionless self becomes detached from the world of action. Yet it is there. It is present. It's like a witness. The person who can find the distinction between the actionlessness of the self or consciousness and the action of nature, that person is wise. This person is a Pandita. This person is free. This person can really depend, that is, takes the support of knowledge. Knowledge is a tremendous kind of fact in it. Everything is suffused. That person's personality, that person's actions, and everything is suffused with knowledge. We live in a small world of our own making. Now, if you open the eyes and see how this whole world is working in its very fine, intricate, you can say, mechanisms, it's astounding. This whole universe seems so simple. Oh, the beautiful mountains and lakes and trees. Is that all you can see? Yes, isn't it so beautiful? Well, you've missed the whole point. Well, I've written a poetry over that. Blue skies and jagged mountains and white streams coming down, forming into a blue lake, and fish jumping in the lake. You have not understood the life behind that mountain and the river and the streams and the lakes. That the whole universe, what you see is it's a very complex, intricate web of life. In fact, this whole world has been transformed by life. This humble algae has pumped all the oxygen that we breathe in. And you see, it has life, and the life has transformed this universe, this world that we live in, and we are not aware of this thing. Millions and millions and millions ago, somebody has worked, and we are reaping the benefits of this today. We have not seen this life as organic, as dynamic, as living, as a part of us. Who runs this whole show? Well, who runs it? Whether you call it a self-sustaining, you can say, mechanism, or the Lord runs this whole show, that is the idea. If you can understand the mechanisms, you're free. What have I even done? All my actions are nothing compared to what's going on around me. This is what is called maturity in wisdom. The wisdom matures and matures, gets grander and grander. That small kind of blinders, blinkers that you were wearing are now taken off, and you see the world as it is. And then you joyfully participate. What else can the world give me, and what can I give the world? I'm ready to sacrifice myself for this grand, you can say, vision of life. So this verse is the highest metaphysical realities are being spoken of, yet at the same time very practical examples also. The methodology. That person, naiva kinchit karoti saha. He or she does not do anything. Though that person is engaged in work, constant work, that person does not do anything. How? Because the sense of agency has gone off. See, when your ego, you see, when people are very egotistical, full of pride and anger and hatred and jealousy, you get a lot of people, everywhere. They're everywhere. You must understand, the more inflated all these things are, the more ignorant that person is. And the more inflated your knowledge is, the less your ego is, the less your pride, the less your anger, less your hatred, less your jealousy. Everything becomes small. So the next time you see the person who say, I did this, I did that, I do this. Person is overly sensitive, he got a big ego. That person also has big ignorance. So it is this knowledge. That person, when the person is doing things, I don't do anything. This whole body is being run through your karma, but subconsciously. And what's so grand about I'm running this house? Why you have to be so proud about it? It's running on its own steam. Yeah. The lungs are pumping, the heart is pumping, the blood is circulating, everything going on. Why you have to say, I'm running this thing? Huh? Nothing. So each person, we have a body here, and our biological cells, we have a certain quantity, some 50 trillion or whatever it is. And these cells are outnumbered by all the bacteria and all the viruses that we have. We host all these things inside us. Can you see this? No, I don't. Yeah. So your vision has become so narrowed on this. Your whole existence depends, your whole reality depends on that small eye. You don't see the world around you. This whole universe in a microcosm is you. There's so much of flora inside. If it wasn't for the flora, we would have died. Yeah. So we are in a very symbiotic relationship with the world. Yes, we are so inextricably linked with the world. And the study of the body itself will tell you, oh yes, yeah. So why have I separated myself from the world, and then I've separated my sense of identity and say, this is me. Why don't you take the rest? No, that's not me. Well, that is you. No, only the good things. So this is the result of ignorance. And the Pandit, the person who knows, the learned, the one who knows the reality, will see things as they are. I remember a long time back, there was a great Swami, very learned. So we all knew he had the highest realization, And he was so friendly and so natural with all of us. And we were just very young, we had just joined the order. So one time I asked him, Swami, how do you look upon us? How do you look at us? So he began laughing and laughing and he just couldn't stop. I see you as you are. But we also see you as you are. And he again starts laughing and laughing. Then we are not seeing him as he is. But he is seeing us as we are. And it was a kind of light bulbs going off inside. That guy is seeing us really on the very deeper level. But we are seeing him only on the surface level. So one of those great people that I had the good fortune of interacting for years and years and years along with him, he was my mentor and so many things. So our vision of things is just on the surface, and that's why we can't catch the reality. The learned man, the Pandit, his vision is deep inside and it goes in and catches the reality. And what is the reality? You will see that person sees that ego is a flimsy, very flimsy entity. It can't stand scrutiny. It can't stand the light of truth. It runs away, disappears. This is what. So when that person, and this person, even though that person is working, karmanya bhi pravritto, even that person is working externally, it seems, yeah, that person is working. That person does not do anything. Later on, we will see that the Lord says, nahi kaschit shanamapi jato tishtati karman. This world will die if I don't work, the Lord says. And no one can remain without work. So that's why they say, if you're doing the work, if you're destined to work, if you're oriented towards work, do the Lord's work. As simple as that. The Lord is working, and if the Lord stops, everything is dead. Everything goes out, is destroyed. So what you do is do the Lord's work and offer the results back to Him. And of course, why do you do it? Out of love. Oh, God is doing so much. Suppose you see a person stumble and fall in front of you. What do? Do you applaud? Well, there are some people who do that. But your instinctive reaction will be to go and help that person. Swamiji also says, even the most, you can say, depraved person, if you put a small child in that person's arms, for that moment, that guy will lose all his depravity, keep it aside, and take care of the baby. That is what it is. The responsibility has to be thrown on that guy. And this guy then... So what's your responsibility? Your responsibility is towards the Lord, not to anyone else. What about my ego? You don't have to bother about that. The moment you go towards the Lord, the ego will disappear, because it can stand the light of truth. And this is what happens. So, though that person constantly works, what does that person? That person does not do anything, because it is akarma, it is non-work, it is not binding. This work in the sense of bondage is absent. That person is working, that person doesn't do anything. So when you can say the moon is revolving and rotating round the earth, and the earth is rotating and revolving around the sun, and the sun is rotating and revolving around something else, and something else around, or something else, and something else. The whole thing is like a crazy system there. So who's making everything rotate and revolve? Nobody. The laws of nature are taking care of this. If you bring in theology, say, yeah, the Lord is making, okay, fine. If so much of activity and movement and life is taking place without your particular intervention, you don't need to feel so proud about your achievement. So this is how having given up attachment to the results of action. So it is not action that binds, it is the desire behind the action for the results. One who is ever contented, nitratriptho, ever contented, why? What will the world give me? Why should I be a beggar? Why should I keep on begging? Please give me this, give me that, give me happiness. And then, oh yes, take, the world gives you happiness. But you're saying, this is sorrow. Oh, this is happiness. You wanted it, but this is sorrow. Well, a beggar has no choices. Take. You can transform that sorrow into happiness. But we don't know the method. So why should I go and depend on the world for my joy and pleasure and happiness? And I am self-contented. I don't need anybody except my own wisdom. That is what is necessary. So it's ever contented, depending on nothing. Nothing? No. Depending on your ego? No. Depending on your efficiency? No. Depending on how things will work your way, work towards you? No. just on wisdom. You don't depend on anybody or anything. And that is the problem. We depend on the egos. And the ego is getting fattened and fattened and fattened. You see, this big guy is now dependent on me. So this guy, the ego becomes so fattened, and that person starts dictating things. Because when we do something, we immediately find, oh, this was the wrong thing that I did. Why? I was kind of prompted. I was led into sin. Who? That Satan had come, devil had come, and he pushed me into sin. I didn't want to do that. So there you are. You want to push away all your blame on someone. That also will not do. So you have to depend on. So that person really does not do anything, even though engaged in action. Naiva kinchit karoti. Nothing. So this is what? So the next verse is a continuation of this very theme. Nirashir yatachittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. One who is without hankering. One who has the mind and the senses under control. One who is without possessions, that person incurs no sin or demerit by performing actions merely for the maintenance of the body. Having subdued his mind and body, and having given up all objects of enjoyment, free from craving, one who performs sheer bodily actions does not incur demerit. This is the translation of the Gita Press Bhagavad Gita. It's a wonderful. The idea is we are always hoping. Nirashi, that is, we hope for something. We hoped and hoped and hoped. And whatever we hoped was just another kind of illusion. We never got what we hoped. We never get what we hope. That is for sure. So what do? Don't hope. So, be hopeless. Oh, that guy is a hopeless guy. Yeah, you better be hopeless in the true sense of the term. Don't hope because you're going to be a beggar then. You'll pray to this God, you'll pray to that God, you'll pray to this God, you'll pray to all the gods. And nothing happens. Oh, these guys, they're all busy. they're not listening to me. So, Nirashir and Yatachittatma, one whose chitta, the internal instrument, as well as the mind and the senses and all, are under control. What controls you? Suppose I know this to be bad. What controls me? My body and mind? Knowledge. I don't need somebody standing there with a whip. You put your hand there. Why? That is bad for you. I don't need all that. My own knowledge will tell me this is bad. So supreme control comes to me through knowledge. As simple as that. And that is what Vedanta says. You don't go and mortify yourself. Don't torture yourself. Don't half kill yourself. Don't wear that ashes and sackcloths. In the medieval times, we had monks who used to wear these sackcloths and ashes and constantly beat their breast. Ha, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner. Take chains and self-flagellations. That is tamasic, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Don't do that. You want to control your body and mind through that? No. You control your body and mind through knowledge. And if you can do that, this is called yatachittatma. And then saying, Tyakta sarva parigraha. He has given up and is without any possession. He has given up all possession. What does one possess? Well, I think there's a saying, quite of this. What profits a man if he wins the whole world and loses his own soul? Something like that. It just struck me. What do you possess? Nothing. Things are coming and going by the laws of nature. Don't put that tentacle of possession. People are very possessive, This is mine, and this is mine, this is mine. Okay, you take that possession and get more miserable. So, parigraha is actually, they say, it's one of the, you can say, disciplines in the preliminary disciplines in the yoga. A person should be free from any sort of idea of acquisition. Gifts. Somebody comes and gives you a gift and, oh yes, this is me. This is for me. And you keep on taking gifts and gifts and gifts and gifts, and then you know what happens. That's a nice one. That person renounces everything that is superfluous. So what does it? Just for the maintenance of the body, whatever is necessary, that person will keep on. Because this is a sanction of the scriptures. This body has been kind of there with you, and it's like a shell, and the kernel has separated itself, the fruit has been separated from the shell. So this body has come by the laws of nature. It will go by the laws of nature. You don't have to worry. So till that time, keep it kind of, they say, save your prana, save your life breath inside. Don't neglect it. So that is all your duty for your own body. Of course, that person with wisdom does not say, this is my body. But in this body has been realized that Atman. So that body has become extremely pure. And such bodies will be doing good to the world. Take for example Swami Vivekananda's physical body. Okay. If that body wouldn't have been there, he would have neglected it and it would have gone out. Then what would have happened? There's so many people that were benefited through him would not be benefited. There was a time when he was during his parivrajya, wandering days. So he was extremely hungry. He was in the forest, and in the forest there was no food. There in front of him he saw a tiger. And the tiger is looking at him, and he's looking at the tiger. He's so weak to even move. He's saying, well, I can't eat you, but you can eat me. At least you can satisfy your hunger. He had no kind of ownership for the body is mine. He was willing to sacrifice. But through providence, that tiger looks at him for a while, then sulks and goes. And there are many instances like this in the lives of direct disciples. So that body of Swami Vivekananda helped awaken the spirit, the knowledge in thousands and millions of people. That is it. So your body is nothing but a vehicle for the transmission of knowledge, of wisdom to others. Even if it is not like that, suppose you don't want to bother about all these things, you take care of the body. That is, see that you keep it clean and you keep it fed. That's the only thing you, not anything anymore. Shariram kevalam karma. You think, what is the use? I can throw it out. Yeah, that depends on you. At one point of time, the Lord takes over the care of your body. You don't have to worry. In the highest states of realization, where the person is incapable of even becoming aware of one's body, that person's body is taken care of. Like in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, he was for 6 months in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And the body would have just withered away. 21 days and the body just falls away. But there was a kind of a monk that come and used to he kept that body alive. The biographer says that he knew, that monk who had come, knew that good will come to the world if this body is preserved. So the Divine Mother had sent that other monk to take care of Sri Ramakrishna. So there's what this verse is saying, there's a bare maintenance that's necessary and that needs to be taken care of. So Shariram Kevalam Karma. There it is. Kurvan apnote. And even taking care of the body, this is a kind of a stupid kind of thing. It will create some demerit in you. So here the verse says, there is no fault. That person will not accumulate or accrue any fault in taking care of the body. So he or she incurs no sin by performing actions merely for the maintenance of the body. Okay. So the other will say, what is this? That person is such a great person, taking care of the body. Yeah, but there is no fault in it. No fresh karma, no fresh chains are engendered. Because right now, it has become the Lord's vehicle. That person has become free. So I remember a long time back, one Swami was there. He was, after breakfast, he was so energetic and he used to dust and sweep and swab and everything. Half an hour and we used to, there he starts. And he's dusting and he's sneezing. He had a dust allergy also. So say, hey, Swami, why do you have to bother? You're dusting the thing, dust is getting inside. Hey, no, you have to keep everything clean. But then we used to make fun. This is not your room, your quarters. Tomorrow you might be saying you go shift to another thing. What will you do? Yeah, I'll clean there also. It's like the same thing we said. This body does not belong to you. Yeah, but then you have to keep it clean. And that is what the whole idea is. Yeah, I'll be shifted off from this room. So we are making, kind of fun with him. Yeah, we need to shift you every month to a different room. And so the whole monastery will be spick and span. So the idea is, like, you have to keep it clean. Yeah, it doesn't belong to me, but keep it clean. Similarly with the body, yeah, it doesn't belong to me. Keep it clean and healthy and keep it fine. Okay, that's all. That is all you can do. And you incur no demerit if you do that. Rest of the things, you don't. You're a hopeless guy. See that guy? Hopeless. Yeah, good to be hopeless. I don't have no hopes. I have no hopes that the world will give me some alms. I'm a beggar. I don't have any hopes because I depend on my knowledge and on God. I have my senses and everything under control. Uh, yeah, I think I can. There's one Siddhartha. There was a book, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha, and there was a movie also. So there was a disciple of Gautama Buddha who decides to chalk his own path, you know, find his own path. So he was a monk since he was a young boy, and then he's grown up there. So he wants to leave the order and go out. So the Buddha says, okay, fine, go out. And so he was a monk and he wasn't trained for any kind of worldly duties. So he's going asking for employment. And so they ask him, what do you know? I can wait, I can fast, and I can think. You can wait? Yeah, waiting is people are so impatient. It's really amazing that this is a quality. If you look, you can wait, you can fast. That person is completely under his or her own control. Hunger is the greatest, you can say, force that rattles, You can wait, you can fast, and can think. Many people aren't thinking. You look at them and see how the eyes are unthinking eyes. The moment you see a little thought, good. But then he never got employment anyway because of his sterling qualities of knowing to wait and to fast and to think. So he became, a ferry man on the ferry, carrying people from one bank of the river to the other. And doing that work, he watched the changes in the river, and then that gave him that insight into reality. Everything is changing. So, to come back, you don't have to be a beggar. You depend on God, keep your powder dry, as they say. Keep yourself under control and don't go for the superfluous. Go really for the deep things. And the more you go for the deep things, the more deeper you become. The person who goes for superficial things, that person is superficial. The person who wants deep things, that person has understood there's something big waiting for me. Okay. We stop here for today. We take the 22nd verse next Thursday. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.